Don't answer it, I whispered to myself. My phone rattled against the wooden cafe table, loud enough to make the couple beside me glance over. I turned the screen toward me. 93 missed calls. Another call came through before I could set it down. Mom. I declined it. The number changed to 94. Across the lake, sunlight shimmered over the water while a server placed eggs Benedict and fresh fruit in front of me. 1 week earlier, my brother Nathan had sent me 4 words that erased months of work. Don't come to the wedding. No conversation, no explanation, just an order. Then my parents called, not to defend me, but to make sure I obeyed. Please don't make this harder, Mom had said. Nathan deserves one peaceful day. As though I were the threat. As though I hadn't spent months keeping his wedding from collapsing. Now the ceremony was supposed to begin in less than an hour, and nearly everyone who had ignored me all week suddenly needed to hear my voice. My phone vibrated again. This time, I smiled, lifted my coffee, and let it ring. What I didn't know yet was that the wedding hadn't even started falling apart. The real disaster was still coming. The previous Saturday, I had been standing in my kitchen when Nathan's message appeared. Don't come to the wedding. I read it 3 times before calling him. He rejected the call immediately. Nathan, what is this? I typed. His response came less than a minute later. Your presence will ruin the atmosphere. Respect our decision. Our decision. That phrase bothered me more than the insult. I had barely spoken to his fiancée, Vanessa, outside planning meetings, and she had never suggested there was a problem between us. Before I could respond, Mom called. You got Nathan's message, she asked. I did. What exactly am I being accused of? She exhaled sharply. Tracy, don't turn this into an argument. He just banned me from his wedding. He and Vanessa want the day to feel positive. And I do. That's not what I said. It was exactly what she meant. Dad took the phone from her. Your brother has made his decision, he said. Be mature and stay away. I stared at the binder on my kitchen counter. The vendor contacts, transportation schedules, payment deadlines, setup instructions, and emergency alternatives I had built for Nathan's wedding. For months, he had called whenever something went wrong. Tracy, the florist, changed the delivery window. Tracy, the hotel shuttle company needs confirmation. Tracy, the caterer says the deposit is short. I fixed every problem quietly. Nathan accepted every compliment publicly. Now that everything appeared ready, I had become inconvenient. By Sunday morning, several relatives had stopped responding to me. An aunt finally sent a short message. I heard you decided not to attend. That's disappointing. Nathan had already rewritten the story. I didn't defend myself. I booked 2 nights at a lakeside hotel, packed 1 small bag, and drove out early on the wedding morning. Wedding group notifications flashed across my dashboard screen. Florist delayed. Where is the seating revision? Who has the shuttle contact? I switched off the alerts. For once, I wasn't going to rescue anyone. At the cafe, my phone counter climbed from 107 to 119, then 126. I cut into my breakfast. The next call pushed it to 127. I expected Nathan's name. Instead, the screen displayed the wedding venue. Why was the venue calling the sister who had been ordered to stay away? I silenced the venue's call and placed my phone face down beside my coffee. Seconds later, another unfamiliar number appeared. I let that one ring too. Months earlier, Nathan had called me almost every evening. Tracy, the caterer, changed the service schedule. Send me the revised contract. The shuttle company says they can't guarantee all 3 hotel pickups. I'll rebuild the route. He never asked whether I had time. He simply expected me to fix whatever he had overlooked. As a senior event logistics manager, I knew how one delayed delivery could disrupt an entire schedule. I created a shared planning system that connected every vendor, payment deadline, arrival window, backup contact, and contingency plan. Nathan called it a few spreadsheets. At a family planning dinner, he proudly announced, "Everything is finally under control." Mom smiled at him. "You've worked so hard." I looked down at the seating chart I had corrected that afternoon. Then Nathan mentioned that the ceremony musicians would arrive at 3:30. "The ceremony starts at 4, I said. "They need sound check at 3. His smile vanished. "They know what they're doing. The venue requires equipment set up 45 minutes early." Nathan leaned back. "There you go again." Again. Trying to control everything. Dad set down his fork. "Tracy, let your brother plan his own wedding." I almost laughed. Nathan had called me 6 times that week alone. After dinner, he followed me into the driveway. "You embarrass me when you correct me in front of people," he said. I was preventing a scheduling problem. You always need everyone to know you're the smartest person in the room. The next morning, he asked me to resolve the same musician conflict privately. I did. He never thanked me. After he banned me from the wedding, I sent one final message. "I hope your wedding is everything you want." He left it unread. Back at the lakeside cafe, my phone vibrated again. A voicemail notification appeared from the unfamiliar number. I pressed play. A woman's strained voice filled the speaker. "Tracy, this is Megan from the venue. You have to call us back. Right now." By the time Megan left her voicemail, guests were already gathering at the venue. No one realized the day was about to unravel. The first problem seemed small. One shuttle bus pulled up to the ceremony entrance, while another stopped at the reception hall nearly half a mile away. Elderly guests wandered between buildings, confused about where the ceremony would even take place. "Who approved these routes?" one driver asked. No one had an answer. Inside the ballroom, the florist stood beside dozens of unopened arrangements. "I need the updated placement chart," she told a coordinator. "We thought you had it." "I only have version 3. The bride approved version 5. The florist frowned. "I've never seen a version 5. Meanwhile, the DJ wheeled in his equipment. "Where's the revised timeline?" he asked. "What revised timeline?" "The one moving the speeches before dinner." Blank stares met him. Across the venue, the caterer's manager approached Nathan. "We still haven't received authorization for today's final payment adjustment." Nathan looked confused. "What adjustment?" "The one requested after your guest count increased." "I never requested anything." The manager opened an email. "It came through your wedding planning account." Nathan grabbed the phone, scrolling through messages he barely recognized. Every approval, every schedule, every vendor update had been organized through the planning system Tracy built. He had assumed someone else could simply continue using it. Nobody had. Within another 20 minutes, the problems multiplied. The officiant arrived at the lakeside ceremony site. The wedding party was waiting inside the ballroom. Guest seating cards matched neither location. Photography assistants couldn't locate the updated family portrait schedule. The bakery delivered the cake to the wrong entrance because no one answered the logistics number Tracy had always monitored. Voices grew louder. "What is happening? Who's in charge? When are we starting?" Nathan's face turned red. "This is Tracy," he snapped. "She's doing this because she's angry." One of the venue coordinators stared at him. "Your sister?" "Yes." "The sister you told us wasn't attending." "Exactly." She folded her clipboard. "Mr. Bennett, your sister hasn't accessed the planning system since last week." Nathan froze. "What?" "The logs show she stopped making changes the same day she was removed from the event." Silence settled around them. The coordinator continued. Everything that's failing today was never transferred to anyone else. Nathan looked around the room. For the first time all morning, he realized there was no invisible safety net. Every phone nearby started ringing. His best man, his mother, Vanessa's parents, vendor managers, even relatives who had ignored Tracy all week. At the lakeside cafe, I finished the last bite of cheesecake and watched a sailboat drift across the water. Another 12 missed calls appeared. Then 15 more. I didn't delete a single message. I didn't block anyone. I simply wasn't there to carry work that was never mine anymore. Nathan slammed his phone onto a banquet table. Find her. His best man hesitated. She isn't answering. I don't care where she is. Nathan pointed toward the parking lot. Someone drive to her hotel and bring her back. Before anyone could reach my hotel, the wedding slipped even further out of control. The ceremony had already been delayed nearly an hour. Guests who had arrived early were now standing in clusters, checking their watches and whispering among themselves. Has anyone talked to the bride? I heard the transportation schedule was wrong. No, I heard the caterer walked out. Rumors spread faster than facts. Inside the bridal suite, Vanessa sat in front of the mirror with tears streaking her makeup. This wasn't supposed to happen, she whispered. Her maid of honor squeezed her shoulder. We'll get it sorted. How? Neither of them had an answer. Outside, the venue manager approached Nathan with a folder. We need to discuss the delay. We're working on it. The ballroom staff has entered overtime. Nathan rubbed his forehead. So, the kitchen staff, security team, musicians, and venue attendants are all billed by the hour after your reserved window. He flipped open the folder. These additional charges begin immediately. Nathan stared at the growing list of fees. And if we continue delaying, they continue increasing. Before he could respond, the catering manager interrupted. My staff cannot stay indefinitely without authorization. The florist joined them. My installation crew has another event this evening. Then the photographer. We're losing daylight for the outdoor portraits. Every conversation ended the same way. What do you want us to do? Nathan had no answer. Meanwhile, several elderly relatives quietly gathered their belongings. One of my great-aunts sighed. We've been waiting almost 2 hours. Her husband shook his head. We're driving home. They weren't the only ones. Cars slowly began leaving the parking lot. Each departure made the atmosphere heavier. Across town, I checked out of my lakeside hotel. The receptionist smiled warmly. I hope you had a relaxing stay. I really did. As I placed my luggage in the trunk, my phone vibrated again. One new voicemail. Then another. Then 3 more. During a stop at a scenic overlook on the drive home, I finally opened the voicemail list. The first message was from my mother. Tracy, please call us. The second was my father. We need your help. Nathan's message came next. Just answer the phone. Then the venue coordinator. We're trying to locate the latest transportation schedule. The florist. The placement diagrams aren't here. The caterer. We can't reach anyone who understands the revised service timeline. One after another. None of them began with an apology. Not one voice said they had treated me unfairly. Not one admitted I had been wrongfully excluded. Every message revolved around a single request. Please fix this. I leaned against my car and looked out across the lake. For years, I had mistaken being needed for being loved. Whenever something broke, my phone rang. Whenever everything worked, my name disappeared. The moment I stopped carrying everyone else's responsibilities, they noticed the weight, but not the person who had been carrying it. I locked my phone. I wasn't refusing, because I wanted revenge. I was refusing because the wedding had stopped being my responsibility the moment my brother told me to stay away. As I drove toward the city, the calls finally slowed. The silence inside the car felt unfamiliar. Peaceful. Just before I reached the city limits, one final voicemail notification appeared. The caller ID wasn't Nathan. It wasn't my parents. It was Vanessa. I pulled into a rest area, took a slow breath, and pressed play. "Tracy," her trembling voice began, "please, I think I've been lied to." I sat in my parked car and listened without interrupting. Vanessa's voice was shaking. "Tracy, I don't even know where to start." She took a deep breath before continuing. "Nathan told me you hated our relationship. He said you criticized everything I wanted, that you kept trying to take over the wedding because you couldn't stand not being the center of attention." I closed my eyes. Those words sounded nothing like me. "I believed him," she admitted. "I thought asking him to keep some distance between us would make things calmer. I never asked him to ban you from the wedding." There it was. The truth I'd been missing. Nathan hadn't simply excluded me. He had built an entire story around me to justify it. Vanessa continued. "Today the venue manager asked who created the planning system because nobody could find anything. Every vendor kept saying, 'Ask Tracy.'" Her voice cracked. "I didn't even know you'd done all of that." I looked out over the highway. "I wasn't trying to be recognized," I said quietly. "I was trying to help my brother." "I know that now." For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then she asked the question everyone else had been asking all day. "Can you come back?" I answered honestly. "No." Silence. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I appreciate your apology." "You really aren't coming." I was told not to attend the wedding. I respected that decision. She started crying. "I don't know how we're supposed to fix this." "You aren't fixing a wedding anymore," I replied gently. "You're deciding what kind of marriage begins after today." She didn't argue. Instead, she thanked me for answering the phone. Before hanging up, she said something that stayed with me. "I should have talked to you myself, instead of believing someone else." So should everyone else. The call ended. Hours later, my cousin Melissa called. Unlike the others, she wasn't asking for help. "You should know what happened," she said. I listened. After the ceremony was delayed for nearly 3 hours, the venue staff had to remove several planned services because overtime costs kept climbing. The string quartet had another booking and left. The elaborate dinner service became a simplified buffet because the kitchen couldn't maintain the original schedule. Half the family portraits were never taken because so many relatives had already gone home. Several vendors refused to extend their contracts without immediate payment. Nathan argued with 2 of them in front of dozens of guests. People watched in uncomfortable silence. The celebration everyone had spent months planning became known for one thing: chaos. Over the next several days, the story spread beyond the family. Local vendors compared notes. Every one of them told the same story. Tracy had every detail organized. She warned everyone to keep the planning system updated. She wasn't even there when everything failed. My phone rang again Monday morning. This time it wasn't family. It was the owner of one of the transportation companies. "I've been meaning to call you." "About Saturday." "Actually, about a job." I laughed softly. "I wasn't expecting that. We've worked with hundreds of planners. Your documentation was the most organized we've ever seen. We'd like to recommend you to several corporate clients if you're interested." By Friday, 2 more referrals arrived from vendors who had witnessed the wedding collapse. The incident that was supposed to damage my reputation accomplished the opposite. People finally saw the work I had always done behind the scenes. Nathan wasn't as fortunate. Relatives compared screenshots. My original messages. His texts. The timeline became impossible to deny. Everyone saw the message he had sent me. Don't come to the wedding. Everyone saw my final reply. I hope your wedding is everything you want. There were no insults, no threats, no sabotage, just acceptance. Family members slowly realized they had ignored me because they never questioned Nathan's version of events. Several called to apologize. Some apologized awkwardly. Others cried. A few admitted they had always assumed I would fix everything because I always had. For the first time, I answered with honesty instead of reassurance. I forgive you, I said, but things have to change. And they did. I stopped volunteering to organize every reunion, birthday, anniversary, and holiday gathering. When someone asked if I could just handle it, I smiled and said no. At first, the family seemed surprised. Then they adapted. The responsibility was finally shared, instead of quietly placed on my shoulders. Nathan reached out several times over the following months. His first messages were defensive. Then they became shorter. Eventually, they simply said, "Can we talk?" I never blocked him. I just stopped treating every message like an emergency. Some conversations happened. Others didn't. But our relationship was never allowed to return to what it had been. Because respect isn't measured by how much someone needs you. It's measured by how they treat you when they don't. These days, my weekends look very different. Sometimes, I spend them working with clients who value my expertise. Sometimes I spend them by another quiet lake with a good brunch and my phone tucked away in my bag. It reminds me of the day everything changed. People often ask whether I regret ignoring those 127 missed calls. The answer has never changed. Those 127 missed calls weren't proof that my family couldn't celebrate without me. They were proof they never realized everything I carried until I finally put it down.